What's going on, Ghost Squad? Trey here with Ghost Tactical, and today I want to talk about a subject that has really kind of started to get on my nerves a little bit, and we're going to talk about the state of the Second Amendment community. And a lot of things are happening within our community that kind of leave us susceptible to attacks from the other side. And we wonder why we're always under attack, it seems like. And I think that a lot of it comes down to that we can't get along within our own community. And we use terms and derogatory words towards our own people. And the biggest part of this group is what a lot of people like to call a Fudd. And this is a term that I have grown to really just despise and hate the word Fudd. And I understand why it's being used, and I understand how it's being used by a lot of people that consider themselves Second Amendment advocates, and especially the Second Amendment activists. The term Fudd is used for several different reasons. One of them is just to describe the hunters of our community that seem to only care about their guns for a certain few months of the year. It's also been thrown around loosely as someone that doesn't care about the gun rights as long as their guns aren't being affected by it. And the biggest problem that I have with this is this. The people that may not be the activists, that may not really pay attention to the legislation going through in their state, local, and the federal level for gun control, these people are just as important as anybody else in our community. The problem that we're having is we can't even get along with ourselves right now. We're throwing out terms and talking down upon people that are allies of ours. These people that may not care as much as you do or I do or some of us do in the gun community about legislation, about our gun rights, doesn't mean that they're less of an ally, or they're definitely, not against us. But how can we expect them to care or to be part of our community when all they do is hear how much the rest of the gun community hates them? It's been estimated that there are probably over 100 million gun owners in America, with let's say 300 million guns owned by Americans, roughly. Obviously, there's really no way of knowing, but the estimates out there are about 100 million gun owners owning 300 million guns. The problem that I have with this is that the vast majority of that number are the people that we call Fudds, that may not be hunters, but they just don't keep up with the legislation. They don't really care about what's going on at the state, local, and federal side of things when it comes to gun control. They're people that just want to own guns. They like guns. They want to go shoot their guns however they want to shoot them, or they just want to have one in the house just in case. It doesn't mean that they're against us. It doesn't mean that we should bash them. It certainly doesn't mean that we should ostracize them from our own community. These people are very much a part of our community, and they are desperately needed when it comes time to fight crazy legislation. We remember 2013, after Sandy Hook, they wanted to come after the AR-15. They wanted to come after the black rifle. They wanted to come after these assault rifles. And what happened within the community? Everyone stood up and said, no, not now, not here, not us. And they didn't have a choice but to listen. So what I'm saying to you is when the vast majority of the people within our community are not as keen on legislation or keeping up what's going on, they're just normal people that want to have a gun or two in the house for home protection or to go hunt, we sure as hell don't need to be bashing these same people saying these aren't real activists. They really don't care about our gun rights. They do care about the gun rights. They're just not as vocal as some of us are. Now, for the people that are Howl at the Moon shall not be infringed, get a grip on life, guys. Here's the thing. The more and more you guys are out there talking about these Fudds and this people and that people, all you're doing is dividing us into smaller sects already. We don't need to be divided anymore. We're already divided enough. We need to embrace everyone who's a gun owner and say, look, maybe just because you're not a shall not be infringed Howl at the Moon guy doesn't mean that you're our enemy. It doesn't mean that they are against us. We need to embrace everybody in our community and understand that without a unified front, there is going to be some problems with legislation coming down the line. Maybe instead of talking bad about them, we maybe have discussions with them and explain why we need them to be more vocal, why we need them to be more part of our community, instead of just throwing them under the bus and say they're the reason why we can't get anything done. These Fudds, or whatever you want to call them, are just as much a part of our community as anybody else. And the more and more we divide our own community, we make ourselves look dumber, and we definitely weaken our stance. So instead of going out there and calling names and dividing us even more, next time you see one of these people, instead of just looking at them and not caring what they want, how about you engage a conversation and ask them, hey, I know that you hunt, or I know that you own a couple guns and you may not be really involved in what's going on, but we could really use your help right now, and any help you can get, understanding that the vast majority of gun owners in America fall into this place. They just don't care as much as others do. That doesn't mean they don't care, it's just they're not out there, and they're not going to howl at the moon, and they're not going to go on TV, they're not going to go on YouTube, they're not going to go on all these places and say, the boogeyman's coming for my gun, I want to fight. They're saying, I have my guns, no one's coming after them, I'm perfectly happy with the way things are right now. That doesn't mean that they can't help us, but maybe instead of calling them names, maybe we invite them into our community a little bit more, make it a little more welcoming, because right now, why would they ever want to join us? I wouldn't if I was one of them. I don't know. It's just a thought. But what I'd like to see happening from here on out is, instead of the name calling and the divisiveness in our own community, let's come together and let's really kind of try to be a strong community as a whole. Instead of trying to ostracize people away from us, let's invite them into our circle. Maybe they don't join us because they're afraid of getting called names, or they've been called names for so long that they don't even want anything to do with us. Have you ever thought about that? We're our own worst enemy, guys. The outside, the people that don't like guns, they laugh at us, saying these guys can't even get along with themselves. The closer we get to becoming a unified front, the better that all of us are. So instead of yelling at them and calling them names, let's invite them into our circle and say, we need you, we want you to be a part of us. Maybe we can then bring them in and help us out. So guys, what I really wanted to say was, quit calling each other names. Let's all get along. And I know Rodney King's things being said so many times. Why can't we all just get along? That's a really damn good question. I wish we could. So instead of being name callers out there, I'm sick and tired of not getting along with our own. Let's all come together and fight legislation. In one way or another, we've all got to come together. We might as well start now. Talk to you soon, guys. Simplify.